Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is April, and before we get started with this video, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has purchased a Coolirpa T-shirt so far to support this channel. Your purchase is directly helping us buy supplies and equipment for our videos. It's helping to feed us and pay for bills. So for that, thank you guys so much. We are so grateful to everyone who is showing support so far. If you want to buy a Coolirpa T-shirt, we still have a bunch to sell, and I'll put the link down in my description box. And we are autographing them, and I say we because some of you even want Eric's autograph, so just let us know and we'll be glad to do so. All right, hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's get started. So today I wanted to share some sewing tips for new and experienced sewers. And while I was doing my research, I stumbled upon a lot of interesting sewing hacks on Pinterest. Some of these ideas I've never heard of before or tried yet, so I thought it would be fun to demonstrate it for you guys and see which ones are actually worth using. So the first hack I saw on Pinterest was to use a bar of soap and cut a piece of it and use that to mark your fabric. What I like about using the bar of soap is that the markings show up very clearly and applies smooth, which I liked. It also stays on pretty strong until you wash it off, compared to when I'm using chalk and sometimes the chalk just flies away. The reason why some people prefer to use soap is because it'll wash off of your fabric easily. I haven't experienced any of my chalk or fabric marking pens staining my fabric, but I know it can vary depending on the material, which is why you should always test out your markings on a small piece of your fabric to see if it'll wash out first. I'm not going to replace my marking pens for a bar of soap, but now when these run out and I don't want to run to the store, I have a great alternative. And for those that want to save money, a bar of soap is only like $1, and these can range from $5 to $7. So this next hack is for those who struggle with inserting your thread into the eye of the needle. I struggle with this too sometimes, where you're just trying to stick it through the hole, but then the thread just keeps dodging it for some reason, So the hack is to just take some hairspray. I got a travel size one here, and to keep it from just being so limp, I'm just gonna spray it. Ooh, hopefully that didn't get on the camera. Oops, oh my god, I shouldn't have done that. So if you spray the end, it kind of just stiffens it up a little bit, and now you can slide it through the hole very quickly. This isn't a huge problem for me, so I probably won't be using this hairspray hack, but I definitely can see how this can help other people out there. This next tip is one that I should have been using for ever now, and it is thread conditioner and beeswax. I was actually introduced to using wax or thread conditioner back in college when I took a fine dressmaking class, but I just never thought it was important enough to actually go to the store and buy myself some. But fast forward a few years now, and I've been doing a lot more hand sewing, and every time I do, my thread just ends up getting tangled. It's annoying to have to clip it and start over. So I have two different kind of thread conditioners here with me. This is beeswax, and this one is called Thread Magic, and it isn't a wax apparently, because on the packaging it says this one actually claims that it is better than the wax. Another thing is that this one was $11 and this one was only $5. So you're dealing with two different price points. Both of these prevent your thread from getting tangled or fraying. So if you have this at home, the hairspray method is totally useless. These also help strengthen the life of your thread and eliminate static. For the Thread Magic design that I have, you could even wax an entire bobbin full of thread by having the thread run through the conditioner as it winds. Before I wax my thread, you can see that the thread starts to bunch up, and it eventually will tie itself into a knot if I'm not careful. It happens to me all the time, and then I have to cut the thread and start again, and it's really annoying and time consuming. Now I'm going to try hand sewing with my thread conditioner, and first I'm going to start off with the thread magic. You can instantly see a difference in the way the thread reacts as it's being pulled through the fabric, and the conditioner on it makes it feel very smooth. I also wanted to compare the beeswax to it, so I just did the same thing and coated the thread with the wax. Right away I noticed that the beeswax made the thread feel a lot heavier, and as for the sewing, it did its job in keeping the thread from getting tangled. I do, however, think that the beeswax feels a lot more rough sliding through the fabric compared to the thread conditioner, but overall they both get the job done. Using thread conditioner is going to be a new sewing habit that I start in 2019, and I highly recommend you guys go out and get some for yourself and throw it in your sewing kit. Next up, if you have trouble sewing straight lines, this next tip is for you. This is another handy trick that is always used in sewing classes, and it is painter's tape. Whatever your seam allowance is, just place the tape down at that marking, and now you can clearly see what line to follow. I saw on Pinterest that people also use rubber bands to wrap around their machines, which I think is pretty cool too, because the rubber band is not going to be like tape where you're going to have to, or it's not going to be sticky anymore. So you can always reuse the rubber band and just move it over to whatever new seam allowance you need it to be at. The fifth sewing hack is to use a razor to shave any item of clothing you have at home that is starting to pill. The coat I just made is wool, and after 5 days straight of wearing it in New York, it just started shedding and getting everywhere. So to fix that problem, I'm going to be shaving it in the same direction that the hairs are going. Can you guys believe that all of this fluff was just from the front half of the coat? I think the only con of using a razor on such a big item is that it's going to take a very long time. But because it was so oddly satisfying, I think I would just do it for fun. So this next sewing hack is kind of strange looking, just warning y'all. And it is to take some foil and fold it into a strip that's long enough to wrap around from your waist, around your butt, and underneath to your crotch. The foil is acting like a bendable ruler to help you draft your pants pattern. And then once you get your curved shape, you can use that to make alterations to your pattern piece. I found myself having to go back to rebend the foil piece around my butt because it started to get a little flimsy. So I remade a new one that had more layers of foil to make it more stiff, and it worked a lot better. Basically, you just want to use it as a reference to make sure that the curve is looking similar to the actual curve of your body. This one was kind of weird to do, but I think I would use it next time just because I want to see if it actually would help with the fit of my pants or make the fitting process a lot easier. I saw this next sewing hack multiple times on Pinterest, so obviously I had to try it out for myself. And it was to take a bar of soap and stick your straight pins in them. This is meant to help your stubborn or dull pins glide through your fabric a lot smoother. I'm not sure how long you're supposed to leave them in the bar of soap for, but I just stuck mine in really quickly and pulled them out to test it out on the fabric. I had a couple dull needles that was perfect to try this on, but I'm still not convinced that it's worth it because after one use, I felt like the soap wiped off of it, and then I had to stick it back into the bar of soap. to use it again. And I'm just not sure if I want to keep going back and forth to sticking my pins in the soap. But I'm curious to know what you guys think about this idea, or if you tried it and like it. But for me, it's gonna be a pass. This is a different method I wanted to share, and it is to stuff your pin cushion with steel wool so that it sharpens your needles at the same time. I think this might be better than the soap method, so if you guys are curious, try this one out. This next sewing hack from Pinterest is genius, and it is my favorite yet, and it is to use ribbon to help you turn your skinny straps inside out. I have my fabric pressed in half for my strap. Then use a ribbon that is smaller than the size your strap is going to be, because you don't want to get it caught up in the seam allowance. Sandwich the ribbon in the strap and then tack it down on one side. Next, with the ribbon in between the two layers, I made sure that it was pressed up against the folded edge so I didn't accidentally sew it down. Then just sew the open side of your strap closed. Here is the magic. All you have to do now is pull on the ribbon that's hanging out from the other end to turn the strap inside out. Always get it rolling at the top first, and then the rest will follow through. This is one of my favorite hacks because it worked on the first try and so effortlessly that you guys need to try it out for yourself too. The ninth sewing tip that a lot of people recommended on Pinterest was to sew gathers in your fabric by using the zigzag stitch and cording method. You can use cording or string or floss, but the method is to zigzag stitch over the cording and pull on the string afterwards to gather the fabric. You should also lengthen your zigzag stitch and make it a big size so you don't accidentally sew the string down, because it needs to be separate so you can pull on it later. After gathering my fabric, I was confused on what to do with the string that's inside. Like, how would I sew the gathered skirt onto the next seam? Because for me, my method that I like to use is the 2 rows of basting method, and then you would sew in between those 2 rows. So I was thinking that you would be sewing in the middle of the zigzag stitch. But after some research, I realized with this technique, you're supposed to sew underneath the zigzag, so none of it shows. Just stick to whatever method that works best for you. But yeah, I can see where this method can be useful for certain fabric like heavy denim, because if you were to try to gather a denim fabric with just like a basting stitch, those seams are just gonna pop. So if you use this method, the fabric will just glide over the string. This last sewing hack is to create pleats using a fork. This method requires no measuring or no pinning pleats down. All you need is a fork, and make sure that it's a fork that is straight so that the sides are parallel to each other. What you want to do is slide your fabric through the last slot on the fork, and then turn the fork towards you and keep turning it around full circle until you created a pleat. Also, make sure to adjust the fabric as you are turning. Before sewing the pleat down, remove the fork and sew to the end of the pleat. Then lift up your presser foot, slide the fork back in through that last slot again, and turn it to create your next pleat. Then remove the fork, put your presser foot back down, and sew the pleat. Repeat this process until you are done pleating. I didn't think this hack would be so useful, but once I got the hang of it, it was very fast and efficient and way better than pinning, because whenever I pin my pleats in place all the way down and I start sewing, for some reason they just move all out of place. So by doing it this way, just doing it as you go, the fork actually does a great job at keeping it, you know, the pleats right next to each other with no gaps in between. And all my pleats looked very even and pretty. Another thing I was concerned about was if the size of the pleat was gonna look nice, and It's actually a really nice size for a skirt. And if you want it to be even smaller, you can just move on to the next slot, but you can't use it to make a big pleat. Let me know down in the comments which of these Pinterest sewing hacks were your favorite. Mine was using the ribbon to turn a strap inside out. If you love what you see, please support us by subscribing to my channel and liking this video. Also help support by purchasing a t-shirt by clicking the link down in my description box. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!